Today on the channel, by special request, we got a set rankings, and we're going to rank the latest WWE defining moments wave from my least favorite to my favorite.
And the spirit of Ultimate Warrior will run forever!
Kyle here, and welcome back to the channel for another set rankings video. And today we're ranking WWE Mattel Elite defining moments, the ringside collectibles exclusive wave, from my least favorite to my favorite. And of course, for your defining moment needs, you got to go to ringside. You got to use code Kyle. You got to save 10%. Got to get a deal there. And you know how we're going to do this set rankings. We're going to start at number 4, only 4 figures in this set. Work our way to number 1 being my favorite of this defining moments wave, and a very strong wave with a lot of history behind it in this one. So I'm going to just give you some of my thoughts here before we get into the rankings. Now, it did come in this beautiful shipper box, and I always keep these shipper boxes, and a lot of people always ask me, Kyle, what do you do with all your extra hands and heads? Well, I get a baggie together, like so. I put a little piece of tape on it, I mark what it is, and then I throw it in these boxes. These are great boxes because you need to store these baggies in something. You might as well do it in a fancy box, something like this, something to remind you. And then I'll put a sticker on here that says, you know, defining moments, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it may be. And I'll list what's in here. And that way you got a nice place to store everything. And it's getting reuse out of this box here because the boxes are pretty cool. I do this with these, the ultimate boxes, things like that. So these did come in this box. Now, some people like it, some people don't. I do miss the old school defining moment packaging. And when you say old school, though, there was the huge packages at first. Then they shrunk the package down. Now the package has shrunk so far down to almost elite style. I miss the middle style really on that. And I don't know. Maybe that's just me. You like what you like. You don't what you don't. Not that I don't like the packaging here. It just feels kind of like another elite set in some ways. And especially in some of the character selection over the last couple sets as well. So I'm not saying I don't want the defining moments to continue. I'm not saying I don't like the defining moments. I just wish the boxes were a little bit specialer. They're not the same size as the regular elite ones, but that's a pretty small gripe for somebody that unboxes his figures. However, I am complete on a mint on card collection of defining moments going all the way back to the beginning, and a loose set as well. And I'm continuing that on. I do play a little of that long game on these sets. You never know how that's going to go, but I do need to pick up a mint on card set of these over at ringside. Waiting for the holidays. Might end up doing that in the future. We'll see what happens there. But nice box here. Shows everybody on the box as usual. We know how that goes. Nothing on the back there. Got all their names. But one note of interest here that I've never noticed before, it does in big letters down here say adult collector. And it says underneath that this product is intended for adult collectors and is not intended for children under 14 years of age. So any 13-year-olds roaming around these places, get the heck out of here. You can't handle that. That goes for you, Emma, my daughter Emma, watching from the shadows. You got to get out of here. You can't handle this defining moment set. But I think a big piece of that, a big reason for that disclaimer is our friend Stone Cold Steve Austin down here. As this set is the hallmark, it is the start, maybe the beginnings, I guess, we'll see, with bloody figures from the WWE Mattel Elite line. We've got them from Jazzwares. We got them from Jakks, original San Francisco toy makers once upon a time. But here we are today with our first full-on bloody figure from Mattel. Going to be interesting if we get more of that. And I do personally believe ringside is the place for that. And I would love to see more of that because we've had a lot of bloody moments in history. Give us the Bradshaws, the Eddie Guerrero. There's some John Cena's. There's a lot of all-timers that we would love to see in figure form. And I think if people did say, which one do you want the most? It's going to be this Stone Cold Steve Austin. So a very special figure here. And we will talk about that a little bit when we start ranking these ones. But I want to go through this case, this box, give a little of that, give it a little see you later, heave ho, goodbye. But now we're going to dive into it. We got 4 figures here. And I have to imagine anybody that tries to rank these is going to start with the same number 4. There's always a figure that just doesn't feel like it belongs yet. Not saying it won't in the future. Jakks Classic Superstars, in a similar vein once upon a time. I remember as a kid collecting those. Why is Edge in Classic Superstars? We're getting him in every single Ruthless Aggression set. I don't need him in my Classic Superstars. But here we are, 2 decades later, he feels classic. It feels like it makes sense. And maybe that'll be the point with some of these defining moments. Now, the last set, we got LA Knight, and we saw it didn't sell very well. Deep discount on ringside. We might see some of that same stuff with the number 4 selection for me. That being, like everyone else, United States champion Logan Paul. Easily my least favorite right here. I have to imagine anybody that ranks this is putting him at number 4. It's not bad. It's not terrible. We got an Ultimate that was kind of similar to this. If you missed that, maybe this is a good one. But we're going to get more Logan Pauls. This one doesn't feel defining like a lot of these other ones. It just is kind of what it is. It's a serviceable figure, but I have to imagine most people are going to rank this in easy number 4. So now it gets a heck of a lot harder, though. A heck of a lot harder here. And I could easily make the case for all of these as to why they should be number 1. So that is a good problem to have if you're ringside in Mattel. Some amazing figures here. And I hate to do it because in a lot of different ranking videos, each one of these 3 that remain would be number 1. But they're going up against each other, going to make it very, very tough. And so we're going to have to do it because somebody's got to be number 3. And unfortunately for him, it's going to be Kurt Angle. Now, if this was the return Kurt Angle figure, we've had a few over the last year. This might be number 1 because the anticipation, the excitement would have been there. But this Kurt, I am buying multiples of. I can't say that around these other 2. I will be buying multiples of this one here. Wait for the price to go down a little bit because I would like to display one with the goofy wig on. I would also like to display him as a normal haired Kurt Angle. And then I am displaying him as this one, just in shock that he got his hair shaved off. A fun figure, a 3-in-1 figure. And if you're a min-on card collector like me, a 4-in-1 figure. You're going to have 4 of these in my collection. That's where the long game pays off a little bit. But I do like this Kurt Angle. And going back to what is a defining moment, a truly defining moment, his match against Edge once upon a time, getting his head shaved. An amazing piece of business, an amazing time for wrestling. Very cool figure here. And I can't believe he's number 3, which brings us to number 2. This could be a shocker for a lot of people. But number 2, I'm not going to Paulie Dangerously Paul Heyman. I'm going to Stone Cold Steve Austin at number 2. Yes, I said it. That means Paul Heyman at number 1, and we'll get to him in a second. But I'm going Stone Cold Steve Austin here from the famous match with Bret Hart at WrestleMania. An amazing piece of business. One of the greatest matches of all time. If you have that on your Mount Rushmore of matches, I couldn't fault you for it because it is an amazing match. 2 Hall of Famers, 2 of the greatest superstars to ever wrestle at WrestleMania. And then you add the blood element. We talked about it here. First bloody figure from Mattel. You know that's barking up the right tree for me. Austin, though, very plain, as we do know. We did get extra heads with him. We did get a nice soft good shirt. So there was an extra pizzazz factor. And I really absolutely do love that in 2026, we're getting a 3-pack with referee Ken Shamrock, Bret Hart, and Steve Austin. So we'll be able to really truly display this with the bloody version and the ring gear version, on his way to ring gear, whatever you want to call it version. I love that there's more meat on the bone for this one, and making the perfect figures between those 2 sets, I think is really, really fun. But I don't know. This is very tight, though. Once again, you ask me 6 months from now, this list could change. Logan will still be on the end, but these could change around a little bit. But besides the bloody head sculpt, which is absolutely next level, absolutely amazing, there's not a lot of meat here. It's Stone Cold. We've had a many of Stone Colds. It's Stone Cold. So it is what it is. But man, the head, absolutely next level. Now, I'm a guy that doesn't display, I'm not going to display Bret Hart putting him in the sharpshooter in my collection. Maybe I will, I don't know, but I've never done that historically. So it does look a little bit strange in my collection just having him standing here bloody when he needs to be on the ground. And one thing that limited this figure just slightly, it's not that big a deal, missing the splayed out hands, trying to do the push-up, would have been a given here. Now, Paul Heyman came with those hands. You could shift him over here if you wanted to, or even Kurt Angle if you wanted to. But for some reason, he didn't come with those. However, if you're like most collectors, you probably got baggies and baggies of hands. If you need to dive into those, you could grab those. But that is a little bit of a fault for this figure. Very minute, but still a fault. But an amazing figure. Bring on the bloody figures. But Paul Heyman going to be number 1 for me. I was an ECW guy. ECW saved me from jumping out of wrestling. So many kids in high school and junior high, they leave wrestling in the past. Sometimes they come back. Sometimes they leave it forever. I was dangerously close around that time in the 90s. But ECW rekindled my love for wrestling and kept me watching wrestling. And if it wasn't for ECW, I don't think I'd be watching wrestling. I don't think I'd have any of this. I wouldn't be doing any of this. Probably. I don't know. You never know. It's that fork in the road. You never know what might happen. But Paul Heyman here, was absolutely awesome. And then you go to the one night stand, truly a monumental moment, a nice bookend kinda on ECW. We'll call it a kinda, as we know there was things after that, but a very iconic defining moment here. The headgear, the big jacket, the extra hands, the hat. I love that the hat's molded on. Just so much to like about this one. One of my favorite figures of 2025. And we will be doing a top 10 2025 countdown video on the channel. And we're going to do sleeper elites like we do each year as well. Guys that just missed the top 10 that deserve some recognition. And you might see some of these, sorry Logan, on those lists as we dive into those here in the next month or so. But a fabulous, fabulous set. Can you imagine if Logan Paul wasn't in here? Not throwing him under the bus too much here. But let's say there was something else. There was like the Hell in the Cell Mankind we got, or whatever. Think of a defining moment for anybody, any Hall of Famer. This would be possibly the greatest box set of all time if Logan Paul was not in it. You could still make the argument as the greatest box set of all time just with these three, the strength of these three alone. But just imagine if we got something else in here from a truly iconic moment along the way. Would have been absolutely amazing. Who knows? Maybe in the future we'll get something more iconic, but the next defining moment sets are going to be tough to pass this one. We know we got Penta coming, maybe a step up from Logan Paul and LA Knights, but I wanted to see him to get stuff like this. More of this, less of modern talent that, let's be honest, we're going to get normally in the regular elite lines. Let's do it for more Hall of Fame type stuff. Truly defining moments. In a defining moment, I feel like you got to have some time to make it defining. There hasn't been enough time for Logan Paul yet. There hasn't been enough time for Penta to make it defining yet. And we started that with Shinsuke Nakamura once upon a time, and I guess it continues with the LA Knights and the Logan Pauls here. So at least they're somewhat consistent over there at Mattel. But there it is. That's my set rankings for the defining moments. Would love to hear your set rankings. Put them in the comments down below. Put them in order. That's your hard part. And what would you like to see in the future for the defining moments line? Let me know in the comments down below. You made it this far, don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel and my other YouTube channel. 2 channels to keep you busy each and every single day. Appreciate all the support out there. Make sure you do subscribe. Check out Patreon, YouTube channel memberships for more content. Sir Paul64 on the X, _Kyle_Peterson on Threads, Instagram, TikTok, and TheKylePetersonShow at gmail.com, which conveniently enough is the name of my podcast, The Kyle Peterson Show, available every Tuesday wherever podcasts are found, with video cast on YouTube. So for Mattel Defining Moments Ringside Collectible Exclusive, I'm Kyle. See you guys all real soon.
Well, are we gonna dance or are we gonna play?
We're going to